So welcome to the first episode of the Assisted Living Podcast. We have decided to start this podcast to really educate the public. We get questions all the time, and this is my business partner. We own multiple assisted living facilities across the state of Florida, 2 in Pensacola, 1 in Broward. And Lonnie's the subject matter expert when it comes to assisted living. It's been a long time, and I'll let him get into that. But what we want to do is every Monday, we want to come out with an episode and really educate, because we get calls all the time. I got friends of family that they don't know what to do with. They're going through this first experience of having to either provide home care for their loved one, or they're going through a hospital experience and their parent can't live alone. What do they do, right? Do we send them to a skilled nursing facility? And what's the difference between a skilled nursing facility and an assisted living facility? And we hope to bring light and education when it comes to this, because it's such a need. And, there's going to be 80 million seniors by 2030, and there's not enough care out there to be provided for them. And that's why you're seeing a big push when it comes to senior housing. So we think it's just an opportunity to really educate you guys and help you, guide you through such a difficult situation that sometimes needs a little bit of clarity, because it's not that bad if you're educated. So Lonnie Scheckler, can you tell the audience a little bit about your background in assisted living facilities and how you've gotten up to this point in your career?
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Andy. I've been in the senior space for almost 25 years now. I started as a social worker in a nursing facility, and really got my training in those early days as a social worker, and learned to love senior care during those times. I love being an advocate, love spending time with residents, hearing their stories, hearing their life experiences, loved meeting their families. So for me, it was a great introduction into the senior care world. And from there, I took on a path of healthcare administration. I became a nursing home administrator, and did that for quite a few years, running large skilled nursing facilities, the rehab part, and long-term care. And then I crossed over to assisted living. And I really gained an appreciation of the different levels of care and the different styles of service that are offered in assisted living. And it really gave me an opportunity to go back to my roots, because in the skilled nursing world, it's great. They meet a tremendous need that's in the community. But as an administrator, you don't really get the hands-on experience with the residents and family members in skilled nursing. Why? Because it's a lot of care. They have a lot of regulations. It's very clinical, and the residents have very high acuities. So switching over to the assisted living world gave me the opportunity to be more hands-on as an administrator, and then ultimately as an owner operator. So I've been in the assisted living space for probably 15 years now. So I think I first met you in the skilled nursing world.
You did.
Yes.
You were at Heartland of Kendall.
That's right. That was
Which Heartland was a national brand, right?
Yeah, at the time, HCR Manor Care was the largest, I think, skilled nursing chain in the country.
Yep.
And they were really systems oriented, and really gave me a great perspective. I always tell people in my professional career, that was really my college.
Right.
That's where I learned how to be systems oriented.
Sure.
And I did take a lot of those practices into the assisted living world, because it applies.
So funny you mentioned about the systems. We have a common colleague that we worked with many years, and he came from Manor Care as well. And he gave me one day a notebook, or not a notebook, but I guess it was like a manual just on their sales process.
Yep.
And it was like this. I said, "What is this?" He goes, "That's our sales process and how we do our day-to-day from every process." So they're very system oriented. And it was just, it was a little intimidating to see, because I'm like, hopefully I never have to go through that.
Yeah. Well,
but I know, I was young at the time.
And one of the things that I really love was not that sales manual, but they had a culture of caring.
Right.
They really emphasized a strong culture of caring among the top tier level staff and the direct care staff. And it trickled down. Their philosophy of care trickle down from the top to the bottom. So I've always tried to take those experiences and pass them on to.
So I've always said to be a social worker, you got to be a very, very special person. Like you have a heart of gold, right? Like and the things that you have to go through on a daily basis of trying to help patients, because patients have real issues and the families have real issues, and you got to help them through that process. Sometimes you take that home. But coming out of college, what made you become a social worker?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, which we won't get into, but it was just a desire to help people. I had gone through some life experiences of my own where I needed help as a young adult and or as a teenager and as a child, so you go through these life experiences, and at the time you don't really understand why you're doing it. You just have this innate reason to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of lost coming out of college. I went to University of Florida, graduated with a bachelor's degree, which basically meant that I could be a waiter after college. So I kind of like floundered and didn't really have a purpose. And just through a lot of meditation and just reflecting, I really came to the point where I realized I just need to help people,
Right.
and then I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those situations where you do what you love, and everything else will follow. And so that's how I got into social work. And when I was in social work, they make you do a practicum, not a volunteership, but you work in a professional setting under supervision as a social worker. So my first practicum was at Miami Jewish Home and Hospital in Miami, the one at Douglas Gardens.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's really what hooked me with seniors. And I worked for another social worker at an MSW, and she was amazing. She was a great supervisor, and they had me meeting new residents, meeting their families. I facilitated a group for family members who had loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's. So that really stuck to me, and so I enjoyed it so much that once I graduated, that's the job I looked for.
Incredible. Yeah. Not many people that I know went the social worker route. So it's always interesting when we talk about it that you went that route. So what made you, so you were a social worker for how many years?
I was a social worker for about 5 years.
Okay.
4 or 5 years. I had an administrator at HCR Manicare. She recognized my passion, and I'll never forget the call that she made. I get kind of choked up even thinking about it. Like the call that she made to me to ask me if I wanted to be an assistant administrator, her assistant administrator. And I really, at that time, I didn't give it much thought. I was, focused on what I was doing. I had, elevated myself to the director of social services position, which to me was a great accomplishment. And just the trust that she had in me, and whatever it is that she saw in me just really impacted me. And so I obviously I took that position. I studied under her, and then that's how I became licensed as a nursing home administrator.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. Everybody has a story, right? Like my story was I pushed patients around for years.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and then
your story is incredible.
Yeah, and then I finagled my way into the ICU as a medical assistant tech. And then I got into the business side of healthcare, which was home health sales, right? Never in a million years would I thought I was going to be in home care. And funny enough, it's funny how God works, because my mom had a lot of home care when I was growing up, and in my young adult life, she needed home care because she had a massive stroke when I was 3 years old. And thank God for home care, because I don't think we would have made it, honestly. We had a lot of help from my mother because she couldn't walk correctly. She had a big limp and she couldn't work. And, home care was such a saving grace. And I ended up being in home care for now. I'm 20 years in home care. I've been 22 in healthcare. And I always said that this was my calling because, And it's funny how that works, right?
Yeah, like I said, you don't realize it when you're going through it, but then now as an older adult, you think back and say, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I man, the impact that healthcare, see, it's not only the impact that healthcare has on patients, but it's on the family, right? because this hits you out of nowhere. No one ever prepares themselves. Very few families I know that prepare either their family member eventually is going to get to a time where they're going to need significant health care in their life, right? And they're not prepared for it. And they get hit out of left field and they're like, oh my God, what do we do? Right? Where do we go? What what does insurance cover? What doesn't it cover? And that's the reason we are creating this podcast, is to really educate you and give you all of our experience and knowledge. And we don't know everything, but if we don't know, we know people in the industry that know. And there's going to be a lot of topics, a lot of different experts that we're going to bring on and have these conversations. Dementia is a big one. I'm sure you see a lot of dementia because we deal a lot with memory care, and that's one of the topics I would like to get into as we go through this process. But Lonnie, let me ask you this: what's your biggest takeaway when it comes to assisted living care for patients that are going through it, or families that are going through it? What kind of peace of mind does that bring for them?
You hit the nail on the head. I get calls all the time from family members, friends, colleagues. I get it doesn't stop. The need is so great. And everybody gets focused in on what they do in their lives, and so they don't know, they're lost.
Mm-hmm.
So the important thing is, when people call me in that state of panic, the thing is, I serve as a resource. And this is going back to my social work skills. That's a big part of it, is just being resourceful and breaking it down, identifying exactly what's going on, what the need is. I ask a lot of questions. When someone calls me,
right,
I ask a lot of questions, because what they're telling me could mean a whole number of things. So it's important to really pinpoint what the needs are and then direct them to the right resource. Because like you said, I don't have all the answers. I can't solve all problems, but we know the right place to send you. We know the right.
And that's such an important thing. And this is one of the things that we teach our sales rep, is to ask the right questions, especially if we're meeting with a family member that we're trying to provide services for, or if we're trying to get business from a case manager or a doctor. They always want to go in there and say, we do all this. Mm-hmm. But what are your biggest challenges? What are you facing as a physician, a case manager, social worker? What are your biggest challenges when it comes to home health, when it comes to skilled nursing facility, when it comes to DME, when it comes to assisted living, right? And the same thing is true with patients, right? And their family members. You have to ask the right questions to see what they're going through, and not say, hey, we can just provide this and we can solve all your issues. Sometimes that's not the case.
Right. There are times when you can't help that person.
No, absolutely.
But there's always a solution, I find. There's always a solution. Like I tell my salespeople, they get a lot of referrals. They're very busy every single day. And some of the referrals that they get are not appropriate. So how do you, I always ask them, how do you handle those referrals? Because I feel like salespeople, they don't give the time and effort into those referrals as they do the ones that are good ones, of course, right? Because
that's a problem.
It's a problem. Because why is it a problem? Because you're asking for referrals from somebody, and you're trying to develop a relationship, and you want them to trust you. So in order for them to trust you, you can't just take the good. You got to take the bad too. And by taking the bad, I mean offering them solutions. So I always say, we don't say no to referrals. I tell my salespeople all the time, we do not say no to referrals. We say, okay, we can't meet the needs of that resident. It'll be a challenge for our staff, but we have a service that you can pay for that will be in addition to the service that we provide, and then we'll allow them to stay at our facility.
Sure.
So we give them an option.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say no.
Right.
Now they could come back and say, hey, I can't afford that. That's too costly.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and say, okay, well, they're saying no. now you put it in their shoes, and they're saying no. And then you say, okay, well, here are some other facilities that can meet his needs without having the burden of that extra financial.
So really quick, I've been a sales rep my whole entire career. And And I can tell you, sales reps are selfish people, very selfish, looking at the numbers. Not because they mean that, but it's just the way they're programmed. And this message is for a person that's in sales or starting out in sales when it comes into the healthcare arena, is stop looking at things in the micro and start looking things in the macro. If you can't take that patient, but you went out of your way to help them through their issue or challenge, they're going to go back to a case manager, a social worker, or a doctor, and they're going to tell them that you took the time, even though that they couldn't meet your needs, you couldn't meet that patient's needs, that you took the time to help them, right? Exactly. And that's going to go so long with your accounts. It's going to go, people start talking and it starts spreading out quickly. So that's why it is important that you make yourself available for a patient that you can help, and you can help because people start talking amongst each other and they're like, hey, this person here cares. Mm-hmm. It's not just a number for them.
Right.
And that helps your brand. And that's how you gain trust from a social worker, doctor, so on and so forth.
Exactly. And I think that's the difference between us, our assisted living facilities,
sure,
your home healthcare companies, is that is the message that we send to our staff, our personnel, our administration, that this is a business that isn't just about the numbers. You gotta, my dad told me this, you gotta, in this type of business, you always gotta have a heart.
100%.
You can't make decisions.
You can't be in it for the wrong reasons. And,
right.
you know, in our career, and I know you can attest to this, we've seen many people that have gotten into this field, because of the money, right? And it's always because of the money. And it's like, oh, I cringe when I hear that, because I'll get phone calls and say, hey man, I know you guys are killing it, blah blah. I'm like, what makes you say that, right? Like, you have no idea the struggles that this has caused, because we've done things the right way, right? So, but they make so much money. You know, can you teach me? Like, okay, yeah, let me teach you 22 years of what I've been through in the trenches, right? And I always help people, right? But it's just funny to me that people get into things for the wrong reasons and they're not following their passion, right? And want to help people.
And you see, I visit a lot of facilities throughout the state of Florida.
Yep.
And I mean, as a professional, as someone who does this for a living, I can get it. I can see it right away.
Mm-hmm.
I can see an assisted living that has ownership that does it for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It does it because, you know, they see the dollar signs and they see the silver tsunami and they want to, they want to ride that wave.
Right.
And I can see it right away. And it's not pretty.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. And then there's the other side with the operators who really understand what it takes and understands that the margins aren't going to be as good as you think they're going to be if you run it the right way.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've seen, and I've been now in the assisted living space for quite some years. I've been a part of some pretty big projects, and a lot of private equity is coming into this space. Mm-hmm. Private equity, what they do is they look at numbers. They see what we're seeing, right? In 2030, you're going to have 80 million seniors in this space, and they're going to need housing, right? So that's all they see, but they've never operated in the space. So if you're looking for an assisted living facility, you want to ask the questions. Who's operating? What's their level of experience? Who's the owner, right? Yeah. I think it's something I would ask because of the experience I would have. If I had to put a family member that's not in one of our communities, right? And I'm asking who the owner is. I want to know if it's a private equity, because now I know how private equities think and how they see. They'll cut the tuna sandwich. They'll cut certain things to meet their bottom line numbers, right? And those are the things that we know that we can educate on.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So, all right, in closing, we're going to continue these episodes. I think we can bring a lot of knowledge to a lot of people. So make sure to subscribe, like, do all that stuff to support us, to make sure that we can keep the lights on. And we'll bring you all the knowledge that we have and the people around us that do have knowledge. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. You got a little bit of insight and background to who we are. As this progression goes, you'll get to know more of our experience in the healthcare sector. And we hope that we can educate you guys and can, and that we can bring value. So thank you for tuning in. Any parting words?
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to this. This is very exciting.
Awesome.